Well, fascinating discussion tonight with Simeon Hein as we talk about crop formations. We'll be back in a moment to take your calls with him on Coast to Coast AM. Simeon, tell me a little bit about remote viewing and other subtle energy sciences as they are related directly to crop formations.
Well, that's a good question. Crop circles, crop formations are kind of like a form of structured resonance where you're taking a material and arranging it in a certain shape, in this case maybe like a crystalline shape, and you're getting kind of a resonance out of it that's kind of creating energy, generating energy, something like that. And it's a subtle process, especially, George, because it doesn't happen in every single circle we go into. That's kind of what makes it fun, is you don't know which circles are going to be active and which are just really going to be more inert. Now, so it's a subtle process. We don't totally understand the mechanisms, and it's creating a resonant field. Remote viewing, on the other hand, as I like to call it resonant viewing, seems to be kind of a process of spontaneous resonance where the brain itself is shifting into kind of like, as we say, another domain of attraction. Like it's reorganizing a little bit. You start out with a blank sheet of paper. There's a bit of randomness. Maybe you get some coordinates if it's coordinate remote viewing. And all of a sudden, it turns from chaos into some sort of order right on the page because of the internal structure of the way your awareness works and the way the subconscious can kind of tap into information fields that your conscious mind is not aware of. So I kind of see remote viewing and crop circles as kind of two sides of the same coin. There are different aspects of resonance, and a lot of these subtle energy processes, even the work of people like Mark Macy and other folks like that, have often said that the real key here is resonance, frequency, vibration. And the real exciting thing is that if we can tune our resonance, or we can tune the resonance of a field of wheat, we can create junctures with other fields of energy information that we normally, don't have access to. I think that's really exciting. And we can do it just with a sheet of paper and a pen, like we do with a remote viewing session, or we can go out in the field of wheat, I suggest with the farmer's permission, of course, and you can shape. And there's probably a lot of other processes, too, that we haven't even explored. But it certainly has to do with intention, shape, and some sort of subtle energy field, which, yes, they're very hard to measure, but I think the statistical evidence shows that they're there.
When do we get answers, real answers to what these things may be?
Well, I think we're getting answers to it right now. It's just that the answers aren't coming in the way we expect them to come. And this is why people get so emotionally attached and upset sometimes when we talk about, are they man-made, are they UFO-made? It's because, the universe is showing us something. It's bigger than any of us. It's showing us that there's properties of nature that we haven't really understood yet. And we could, we're at a very critical time on the planet. If you haven't noticed recently, a lot of the systems seem to me to be breaking down. Just on a day-to-day basis, that we've been around for decades and hundreds of years, these kind of older institutional mechanistic processes. It seems to me that these crop formations are a type of spontaneous, kind of nonlinear resonant process, which shows us that just as certain older systems are breaking down, there's new types of other systems that could spontaneously arise that could supply us with energy and information and that, could meet our needs and could replace some of the older institutions, which really seem to have, in many cases, have had their day and don't seem to be able to adjust anymore to the times we're living in.
Fantastic. Let's go to the phones. We'll go to, and also if questions for Simeon Hein, or perhaps you have a crop circle story you want to share with us. We'll go to first-time caller Stephen, DeKalb, Illinois. Great farmland out there. Hey, Stephen, go ahead.
Hey, George, how are you?
Good.
Great show, excellent program. I love your guest, Mr. Hein. I think you're a well-spoken ambassador for this type of stuff. And I simple question that just popped into my head. It's one of the reasons I love watching or listening to George's program. It just makes me think of, different things. But I was curious as to, it sounds as if you believe maybe one of these crop circles may have been created by an extraterrestrial, and then you went into like a form of communication between humans and extraterrestrials. I was curious whether or not you thought there was a possibility that we were being somewhat deceived, and I based that on the fact that when you walk into these circles and your batteries are drained, and I was curious if you've ever run across an experience in which they were recharged.
Right. Yeah, that's what we're waiting for, the day when it makes our technology work better. Because it seems that our technology doesn't interact in a way that it likes with the crop formation for a variety of reasons. But I'm not sure if it's really like deception. It's more that I see the process as a blending of extraterrestrial and human energy. And I know that makes some of us uncomfortable because we want it to be either this or that. And I don't think it's a this or that universe. It's a universe with a lot of gray zones. And this seems to me to be something that started out with perhaps extraterrestrials. We don't actually know who's in those structured craft, but it could be extraterrestrials. And it's turned into something that's kind of helped to educate humans about the nature of geometry, mathematics, shape, and resonance. It almost could be seen like a training project to get us involved in some way. So I see it more as a blend, and that's why the human-made circles, to me, don't seem to be deceptive in any way. It's more that they're kind of a natural evolution of the whole process. And to me, it just seems a healthier way to look at it than to say it's got to be this or that, because it's really a blend. There's certainly many, many cases of UFOs being associated with these formations. I mean, I've talked to farmers myself who have seen these, and there's certainly many cases of man-made ones. You can't actually give percentages. And there's another element. Can I just add this in? We don't know that even after if humans make a circle, if there could be some sort of overlay of extraterrestrial energy later on. In other words, if the shape is resonating with certain frequencies that we normally don't communicate with consciously, if the crop circle is doing that, perhaps it's setting up a communication channel with other forms of intelligence that we can't even identify yet. Because, often when you're in them, and I'm sure other researchers have found this, you almost feel like you're being watched. It's not easy to identify why you feel that way, but it's almost like there's a two-way channel there. And that's another sense where the whole thing becomes a little more mixed and is not so, black and white.
If your batteries get drained when you're in these crop circles, what about you physically, Simeon?
Yeah, right.
Have you been drained?
Yes, that's really a good point. Some of them make you feel really exuberant and excited, and some of them make you feel just plain bad. And I remember a story that, Ron Russell told once that he went into one and it made him feel really lousy, and he went out, but he took a drink of water from his canteen, right, that had been with him in the circle, and he got that sick feeling again, almost kind of like a homeopathic effect of the crop formation on the water, like, you were talking about in the first hour of the show. It's almost like there's some sort of, as it's called, epitaxial effect. It's just that the shape of the wheat or the pattern impacts the shape of the water in some way and replicates that feeling. At least that was his response. So some of them really make you feel great, and some of them, and I don't know what the difference is, but I can tell you one thing just before we go to the next question. This is something that's really interesting. There is a certain pattern to the crop formations that drain our batteries and affect our cameras and equipment and so forth. And it seems to me that the ones that are based on fractal shapes, kind of self-similar repeating shapes, kind of like our lung structure or trees or mountain ranges, things that look like that have a lot of branches. It seems to me that the ones that have a lot of nesting of one circle and smaller circles, kind of like that, to me, in my experience, those are the ones that are most energetically active and the ones that feel the best. So there is something there about the shape and the effect that could have something to do with fractals.
Let's go to Rick in Tucson, Arizona, west of the Rockies. Hey, Rick, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, George. Appreciate it. I'm an old friend of Bruce Lipton's, and I was on August 5th in this same area. Simeon, you must know the Barge Inn, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. This is the place where all of the people gather, George, and when there's a new one that's located, everybody runs and goes, and this is the hub of where we all meet. Right? Okay.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time there. It's great. It's a great place.
Yeah. So, I was most amazed. I'm a wildlife biologist, and it's really amazing to see how many wildlife sea creatures we're seeing. And I really think the word I keep listening for is art. We're really seeing these shapes giving us this artwork like a gift. And I like what you're saying. It's a teaching situation. I have a question for you with that. To me, it's a big classroom. Back to how you were feeling sitting in the different crop circles, we took time. We found a crop circle that nobody had walked into. I was with the guy by the name of his wife was there, Brian, and Stephanie took us into a crop circle. We found one. That was announced at the barge that, gosh, run up here and look. There's supposed to be one from last night. So when you get there, there's no tracks, there's no car tracks, there's no people tracks. So something from above had to make it. And we went in, did the blessing that you're supposed to do, carefully walk into the wheat, appreciating the farmer. And then we actually sat in different parts of it, and was an incredible draining feeling, something that wanted to pull you deep into the earth. Is that what